What's up guys, today I'm going to show you how to composite like GOJO. First I'm going to show you how to do the white outline glow. Then I'm going to show you how to do some basic lens flares. We're also going to cover how to do the glowing eyes effect. And then lastly, I'm also going to show you how to do the color grading like GOJO. Alright, let's get right into the video. Alright, so the first thing you want is a few clips. So I got 2 clips. And then I also masked them out already. So if I just hide the layer below it, you can see these blue layers are just the masks. And then this last layer is just some RSMB, which we can add later. So on this first clip, we're going to make the white outline glow. You basically want to copy your mask. So Ctrl+D. And then go to the layer below it. And then here you want to add an effect called fill. Alright, and on the fill, you can just make it white. Or just like a slight different color. For example, like blue. But I'll just make it almost white, like this. Alright, and the next thing you can do is press P. So you'll bring up the position properties. And then you can just move it around a little. Like this, for example. So it's just a little bit offset. And then the next thing you want to do is pre-compose it. So only this layer and then pre-compose. And make sure this setting is enabled. And then press OK. So this will make sure our edges won't clip when we add a glow, for example. Which we're going to do right now. So add a glow. And then we can select the unmold. So enable this one. And now we can just make it a little more subtle. Like this. Alright, and then later on, we can also add some color grading to make it fit even better. Alright, so now we're going to add a lens flare. So go to this layer here and then Ctrl+Y. And then we'll just create a solid. So we're going to call it lens flare. And now we can just cut it like this. Alright, then we'll add an effect called optical flares. And you can go to options. And here we're just going to go to the light presets, because I always like them more. They just give off a little bit more glow and it can impact your scene way more. So let's choose this one and then make it a different color. For example, like a light blue. Alright, and then press OK. And here you want to set the blending mode to add. So I already did that actually. So usually it's on normal. You want to set it to add. And then here, in case you didn't change this one yet, the on black needs to be changed to on transparent. If you have the blending mode to add, it doesn't really matter, but if you don't, then it will also just remove the black. So that's just useful. Alright, here, I think it might be interesting to just drag the lens flare to his fist, because then it will also have some movement. So go to the beginning, then you want to animate the position, and then here his fist is firstly off screen, so we'll just bring it off screen. Then press U, so you can see your keyframes, and then you can just go frame by frame. So here his fist is up here. Next frame, you can also drag this thing here, and then we'll bring it on his fist. And if you don't see this thing, you can go to View, and then show layer controls. Usually that's like also like a thing when you're 3D tracking, and you can't see like your tracking dots or whatever they're called. Usually it's because you don't have this enabled, so that's just a quick fix. And then also make sure your effect's actually enabled, because if you don't enable it, you can see we can't see it. But if you click on the effect, then we can see it. Alright, so now we'll just do this frame by frame. Alright, now as you can see, it's perfectly tracked. I think it's actually really nice. So I never tried this before, tracking a lens flare to a fist, so it actually turned out pretty cool. Now if you think it's a little too bright, you can also change the blending mode to screen, which is just like a little bit less bright. But for now, I think the add one looks really nice. Alright, so this is it for the first clip. And now we're going to move on to the next clip. And here we're going to add the glowing eyes effect. So this is a perfect clip for it. As you can see, you usually want eyes that are like a little more brighter. Because if you have a clip that has like really dark eyes, then it won't really work that well. You'd have to like mask out this entire eye shape and then add like a white fill layer, for example. So that might fix it. But for now, we're just going to enhance the little and add like a little bit of glow. And that works perfectly when their eyes are already a bit more on the bright side. So we're going to copy our original clip and then put it above the masked out layer. And then we're going to just mask out the eyes really quick. So make sure you're in full and then select the rotor brush tool and then click on your clip twice. And now here you can just mask out his eyes. Alright, and then let's do it for every frame. And then we'll be back when I'm done with this. Alright, so we masked out the eye. And then we want to press freeze as well, because then it won't need to reload every time we want to view the mask out layer. Alright, now close this tab and then go to the normal tool again. Alright, and now on this layer, you could add the fill effect, as I mentioned before, and set it to white. So this is what GOJO sometimes does, but then you really need to make sure that your mask is perfect, so it won't look too jittery. So let's actually go with this one, you know. I was actually gonna make it just glow a little, you know, with deep glow. Like this, for example, so that can look good, you know. So you just add like a simple glow. But for now, I'm actually going to enable this fill. because that looks way cooler, you know. And then you can just change the glow again to fit more, you know, something like this. And then as you can see, you really get these like main villain vibes or whatever. So yeah, that's pretty good. Now we're going to move on to the last step, and that is color grading. So we're going to make another adjustment layer. So Ctrl Alt plus Y. Let's give it a different color, like yellow. So this is our color grading. And then the first thing we want to do is make our clips a little more like the same colors, right? So the first clip, I want to make it a little more blue. So let's add a Lumetri color on the original clip. Then let's make the temperature a little lower, up the contrast a little, and now we can copy it over to our other layers. So here as well, then here as well. All right. Then for the next clip, it's already quite blue, so that's fine. All right, now here it looks kind of green, so we want to increase the tint. Like that. Okay, perfect. So the tint is almost the same as the temperature. It's basically just changing the greens and the pinks instead of the reds and the blues. So now we're going to add our CC. So let's add looks and then go to edit. All right, and then here the first thing we're going to do is add a LUT. And then here I just want to choose a LUT. I have like a 50 plus presets pack in the description down below. So just go to my shop and you'll definitely find it. But today let's choose one of these. So for example, Maxin. And then the next thing you want to do is add a colorista and then just make the shadows more blue. So yeah, let's make it more blue. And then the highlights, you want to make it a little more red, but not too much. And then definitely increase the brightness of that. Let's change the temperature to something more blue. And as you can see, we're already creating a lot of contrast between the blue and the orange, which is usually a really nice combination. Now we do want the red to go a little more towards the orange. So let's drag this and not too much. So like this. And then the blues, we can just drag them out and do something like this, and the light blue as well. All right, and then here you just want to drag this one down. So this will basically eliminate all the color in the very dark parts. And then for the brighter parts, you can do the exact same, but sometimes it will look really bad. For example, here, his skin will just like not be as good anymore. So you just want to drag it down just a little bit. And then here you can change some more contrast if you want. But for now, we'll just leave it like this. All right, then the next thing to make it a little less harsh is to add optical diffusion. So we'll just, you know my technique already. You just increase everything by a lot. And then you just want to make the highlights only 90, for example, or even 95. Because we have a lot of bright parts in our scene, so it will definitely detect it. And then change the size back to something normal again. So you can just, you know, see what looks the best. And then here you can enable it or disable it. So now you can see we just added like a little bit of a glow. We can make the intensity even higher actually. So that's pretty good. All right, then what you can do is add clarity. So GOJO also makes his edits like really sharp. So you definitely want to add some clarity, for example, 20 or even 30. All right, and then you can also switch these around. Sometimes it gives like a different look. For example, if you first sharpen it and then add optical diffusion, it basically won't sharpen your glow, which is kind of weird sometimes, but sometimes it just looks better, you know. But we're going to firstly do the clarity and then the optical diffusion. All right, and now you can press enter. All right, and then here the last thing you want to do is add a Lumetri color, and then we'll just go down to creative, and then here you can just change the sharpen. So again, just make it like 15, just to make it a little bit more sharp. Then close creative, and then go to vignette, and then here you can make it -5. Let's make the feather 0 for now, so we can see what we're working with. And then make the midpoint like 55 and the roundness 25. So something like this. And now you can change the feather back to something like 80. So, you know, it fades out way more because this is kind of ugly, you know, you should never do this. So keep it at a higher number. And then as you can see, we got this. Now it might turn a little bit more dark, maybe a little too much to your liking. So we can always go back to base correction and then increase the exposure just a little bit. All right, so this is how you composite like GOJO. Hopefully you've learned a lot, and if you did, make sure to subscribe. And if you want me to help you even more with After Effects, then make sure to go to the first link in the description down below. All right, bye-bye.